switched.
What did I do?
Might be red.
Yeah,
It's okay.
hit the red button on the wall or just switch it over to input. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, which, okay.
One of those should be a selector to change
There it is.
input. I woke it up.
Okay.
There we go.
So, how do I not do that again?
It was me with you.
Oh, okay. Thought I had all this kind of power. Okay.
The man behind the curtain.
Well, I think
Okay.
I'm not
I will-
reading.
Maybe-
Okay. Gonna go old timer.
The space bar should be okay.
Okay. Back one. There we go. So, why are we doing this? Why are we here? Because currently the code is outdated. There are parts that are potentially illegal. That is bad. It can be applied.
Not illegal, just question.
Okay.
We find a way.
Okay. It can be a barrier to the growth that you want and good development. We want to give you enough protection against bad development, and we want a code that can be easy to administer. So, especially with the time that Jesse and you all have. So, next. So what did we do? We took a zoning ordinance and your subdivision control ordinance, combined them together into a unified development ordinance with a new zoning map. So, all right, and with that, Brian is going to take over.
Okay, so what the UDO will do is it will regulate to the norm. So we look at development patterns in the town and how the process works. We're looking to regulate that, not for the one-off exception that happens over here. We do have processes that do help you when you have those things that come in that no one can anticipate. It provides for an easy-to-navigate document. As you notice, we're doing our meetings before. The ordinance is hyperlinked. You can search for terms. It's also very in plain English. We joke that you can't find a shall in there. We want the ordinance to be accessible to everybody. And we want to really clarify the standard with tables and graphics. In the zoning districts, so on the left are the existing districts you have, and on the right are the districts that are in the ordinance. A couple of something I want to point out here regarding districts. At our last meeting, we talked about the accessory building heights. We made sure that those are noted for every single district. So our accessory building heights are noted on the development standards tables throughout the document. You will notice that we have on residential districts, various residential districts. No, you don't have this type of development currently in the town, but as we discussed, we want to have those standards available for you in the future should you get those requests. So rather than be like, oh, how do we handle this? We have standards in place for that. We also have the special districts of the institutional and downtown, and then your planned unit development district. Then there are 3 overlays. There's a highway corridor overlay. It covers Main Street, and that's looking at because you have multiple districts there. It addresses certain things like signage and what happens along the corridor. We've got the floodplain overlay. Previously, that was a base district in itself. Now it follows the FEMA flood maps and has the regulations for how you address those situations. Then we have groundwater protection overlay. It's where your wells are. When it comes to residential districts, one of the big changes is we've shifted from using minimum lot size as the measure for how dense a neighborhood is into using density. So how many units per acre, and then allowing flexibility within that, and how the homes are laid out on the property. So in this example, we've got a 10-acre site with some trees on it. One of the benefits of regulating by density as opposed to lot size, in the middle there, you'll see when you use a minimum lot size, it forces you to sort of consume all the land. You lose the features that provide the character to that property. By using the system you're doing this in the UDO, you can put those homes on smaller lots, same number of homes, but a little bit smaller lots, and you can save the trees and things. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You can still do big lots, but this is important in really helping to protect those elements that provide character to the community. We also have infill development standards for compatibility in the ordinance this way, so as development happens, that you've got some measures to make sure that things are compatible. We don't want sameness, we want variety, but we also don't want it to be like something fell out of the sky and it didn't look at its neighbors. They're also, while most of the UDO are often is really future focused, there are also elements that affect people day to day. And one of those big ones we've put in here are the property maintenance standards. And so now you've got regulations that help you address situations of people not taking over the property, or how you can address those concerns. And really trying how to address really the common concerns people have about nuisances. And these maintenance standards will help with that. And then finally, we've got improved enforcement options. Your previous code was very much like most codes across the state, where you don't have many tools available. So potentially you can sue somebody. That's very expensive. And it takes a long time. With what we've done is incorporated the different tools that the state allows. And so we have a ticketing process that's in here, and other ways to help with enforcement. One thing we have done is we've worked with Brad on the language and making sure that we've got that done properly. A change that was made, we talked about this a bit at the last meeting, we had the BZA set up as your administrative body for that, working with Brad, knowing and understanding how the town is enforcing other elements. It's the town council that's doing the other enforcement or serving as that hearing board. We've made that change that you can choose what body is the administrative board hearing. So we've made that the town council. So that way it's consistent with the enforcement throughout the community. And with that, we are open to any questions you may have. Thank you.
I think anything grandfathered in, or I mean, how's that work?
Yeah, so if something is, the question is about being grandfathered in. Yes, on the zoning map, our goal is trying to make sure that things are where they should be. As far as if it's a residential use and a residential use, we want to make sure that it's in the proper district. Things that you want to keep and continue, we've zoned that way. Doesn't mean that everything is going to be in its proper zone. If there are those outliers that you've got a business that but maybe surrounded by residential uses, that was probably put in a residential district. And that way it can continue to exist as grandfathered, quote unquote, but it can't expand or can't get more intense.
If there's ever a change in use proposed on that property, that's when the revised zoning comes into play. So continue doing what you're doing on the property, can't change the intent of the other. You can't take a shop that's not allowed there and double it in size, but you could, as things are coming up in the future, you would be able to change it to whatever that use is. So you're getting guidance to that in the future. Keep doing what you're doing, but if it's going to change, it needs to follow the restrictions.
Okay.
You agree with me, they're legal, everything says grandfather, but it's a legal non-conforming use.
Correct. And those standards specifically for legal non-conforming uses are in Chapter 1 of the ordinance.
So don't throw away your old.
You get to be an archivist now. The keeper of the old code.
I got plenty of books.
Any other questions?
I have a question. So as we move along with this book and, I don't know, the first year we find some things we want to change, can we go back to you guys to update the book on things we want to change?
Easy answer, yes. But you're getting the Word files for these, and so you can actually update them as well yourself. So we like to make sure that you've got an easily accessible document.
What I don't want to happen is, you got all these links at work. We start adding stuff, and then the links won't work. That's not what we want. That's, what I'm saying? That's not what we want.
Yeah.
So
Our expectation is the communities, we're an on-call resource. You know, we have long-standing relationships. There's communities where we've worked there the last 30 years that our firm's been in existence. Communities of your size, and you know, we'll be around. We're not going anywhere. So just if there's something you need, just give us a ring and we can talk through how to get that done.
Brad, you're our computer, everything. Do you have any questions or that?
So my understanding is we're getting it as a complete document and we're going to store it on our own website, right? So as long as we have that complete document, I mean, even if their company was to disappear, we would still have that complete document.
In a complete editable document for it. So it's, you got the ability to move forward at any point, make whatever changes you need.
And that's a great point, but recognize this, which is important. This is an ordinance, and so you don't just go in and say, hey, let's...
Well, yeah, I know there's a process.
Well, yeah, because again, you have to pass an additional ordinance that revises. And what's nice, Tippecanoe County is really good with this. They've got some weird planning, but if you look at their ordinance, which is online, then it shows, and they have a lot of them, all of the modifying ordinances and precisely what portion of the code has been changed.
But my question was, is we spent a lot of money on this book. You click, and it takes you there.
Exactly.
I don't want to ruin that if we, you know what I mean?
Well, that's why, since you have to do a modification by an ordinance, discuss the change, draft the ordinance, submit it to them, and say, here's what we want to do. And in many cases, it probably wouldn't make a change, but in some, it might affect the links, and that have to be worked out.
And that's where I'd say add one.
Yeah,
You know, then we'd have to go through the process. But.
So my question is, after working with Brian a little bit, Christy and I, we need this is our book, we need a visionary plan for the town for a lot of grants we're trying to receive.
Yep.
So how do we go about this now?
And you raise a good point, because this is sort of the nuts and bolts of land use and how the property itself is used, but it doesn't address the policy there, and I'll defer to Corey on that. Because yes, I would encourage you to go through that planning process, have that vision, have that understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple different things that you can do. Okra does provide planning grants for this. So we would encourage you to look at that in terms of funding. You can pay it on your own and get it done quicker, so it does take more time with Okra, but they'll provide a $50,000 planning grant to go towards this. And that covers most of the cost of a long-range plan. You know, that kind of long-range plan will look at land use. It will look at your housing situation, what you want to do. It will look at quality of place, parks and recreation, look at infrastructure. And what we generally look at for communities like yours is to be thinking as big picture as you can about how all those things relate. How does your investment in infrastructure tie to where you need to grow and develop in the future? Looking at all those different things together. And that kind of a plan will do all the things you're talking about. It's a long-term vision, but it does it through community consensus. It's outreach to the community, and this is one where, you know, I know we've talked about this, but it's not necessarily easy to get everybody out, but we're going to do a bunch of different things to help get people involved and engaged in that process, and that's really, really critical to that. Of links us up on social media. We actually do some video work for this to promote it and some other things to make sure that as many people's voices as we can get heard into that, and then use that as a guidance tool as you decide, you know, how do you strategically choose which projects that you want to take on. Pick the ones that have the funding sources, and we can use that process to really set those priorities so that you can move forward with confidence.
Are we capable of using like grant writer that Brian suggested, or do we need to put it out for bid for the Okra grants?
So you will have to, you can use the grant writer that you want, okay? They will have to put out a request for qualifications for firms actually do the planning work. So, you know, you can, if you're going to use the grant, if you don't use the grant, you can do whatever you want. Okay? It's professional service. You can hire professional services based on qualifications of who you want. But if you use the grant, you have to do a request for statement of qualifications. If you're using a grant, you couldn't just pick Brian and I to work with. But you can choose who you use for grant administrator.
So are you guys willing to tell the council, us, that that's the next step we need to do?
I mean,
Because if we stop, we'll never get this done.
what route does the council want to go?
When does the Okra grants, do you know when that?
They're coming out quarterly, so once a quarter you can apply for it. I can't remember the next date they're due off the top of my head. But you would want to get started on that now, and it's just going to take you some time. And it's not turning around overnight. It will take a little bit of time to go through it.
But I think that's the next step here, is if we want to build these things we're wanting to do in this community, that's what we have to do.
It's never a bad idea to have a long-term visionary plan.
That's because we can't get any grants without this to start.
Well, you can get them. You're just going to work twice as hard.
Right. And that's not what I
If
want.
you can show that you have a vision and a goal in mind constantly, then they're more apt to say, hey, I kind of like this, yeah.
If the vision is a goal and there's a backing from residents that say this is what the community's real priorities are, and when you do that, and there's just been a lot of money out there recently between the READY programs, between the Lilly Gift Aid programs, all the funds that are coming from Okra, the number of federal grants that are out there right now through the programs that have been passed by the administration. There's a lot of things to be done and a lot of opportunities if you go after those. It's the next logical step based on what you've done. You guys have met the need, but you've not been able to do it in a way that really looks at that long term, and so we think it is the appropriate next step.
Is everybody all right with this, sir? To move on with these guys to the next?
So you're saying move on with these guys. Do you mean not get a grant or get a grant?
That wouldn't be the decision made
Oh, okay.
here.
All right.
It would be a council decision.
I got you.
Recommendation from here.
Be a recommendation from here to move forward.
I got you.
And then the council would decide how to move forward?
Yeah, we would sit down and work this out
I got you.
in 7 days.
Any other questions?
A pre-made template that the town has available if we do add or adjusting things so it stays within this format.
You'll get the word, each chapter is its own word doc.
document. Okay.
That's already got it, everything in there.
So as far as tonight goes, and with the UDO, what we're seeing would be for the Plan Commission to forward the UDO to the Town Council with a favorable recommendation.
Favorable. Do we have a favorable recommendation?
I'll make one.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Let's get a recommendation in for the move forward. I'll make that recommendation.
Anyone want to second that? All in favor?
Aye.
Dave, what was your other one?
To move forward with the visionary plan
Recommendation.
recommendation. Any other questions?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought I'm gonna get that in.
No, I appreciate it.
Jesse, you good?
I'm good. I don't have anything tonight. I don't.
I think you are doing a marvelous job. This is such a vast improvement over the way that.
Agreed.
I will say I appreciate everybody putting in the time on this. been a long time coming, and
We didn't get maps.
we got days after we got maps.
Yeah,
So-
I wasn't even gonna ask.
I know it's taken, I know we started off trying to do it ourselves and realized that, hey, this is not gonna happen, and we went this route and taking some of your time, so everybody appreciates it.
I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
I'll thank you guys for all the work you put into it.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys a lot. And I keep not saying civic blueprint. I'm sorry. Shout out to you guys as well. Okay.
Have we got 30 days now where somebody can come in and look at it? Is that correct?
Yeah, what I want to do at this point, because I don't want to shoot for the hip, is look at the statutes on the protocol for full and final approval.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you go to the town council,
Yeah.
whenever you're comfortable with it.
Would it be 30 days from now or 30 days from the time that the town council says yes?
No, it would go as far as the adoption by the council. So it can go as soon as your next council meeting, as long as you meet your legal notice requirements. So sometimes we have councils that are like the day after the planning commission, and you can't get your legal
You can't
notice.
do that.
But if as long as you meet your legal notice requirements, you could adopt this at your next town council meeting.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
So, Brian, you're gonna get with Elaine on our,
Yep.
okay.
Notice. So, let's see, second, fourth,
Next Wednesday's the next council.
week from today.
Probably
That, yeah,
That's not enough time,
that,
is it?
no,
Is it?
yeah, 48 hours,
Oh,
2 business days.
Yeah.
Anything else? Final call. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make one.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Don't change your map in a couple months.
Oh.
Yeah, that one